For your clothes will need mend. So assemble your thimble and tailor your ends. Are you still tied? I know. 9.
Workstations and music tools, we explore theory gear in 82. How to arrange, compose, and the art of arranging. Taking a look at AI and how the times have changed. On a PC or a Mac and even with a mobile device, we'll be talking about it all every Thursday night. From software to plugins and synths that entice. Dive deep into tech and let creativity take flight. Talkin IT. We're talking IT. Come and join in and have some fun. It's highly educational with a lot to learn. From bedroom producers to seasoned pros, we're breaking it down so knowledge grows. Whether you're a DJ or a beat-making wizard, we got the tips and tricks to make your sound sizzle. Mixing and mastering, that's our jam. With the tutorials and tips on how much RAM. Get the best quality from your setup and gear. Tune in every week and lend us your ear. We're talking IT. Come and join in and have some fun. It's highly educational with a lot to learn. We're talking IT. We're talking IT. Every Thursday night on Angified.
Welcome back to another Thursday.
Welcome all. Thursday it is.
We're talking IT. You got to get the echo in there.
Exactly.
New improved with more echo.
That's the way to do it. Always got to have the echo, and maybe a little delay. A little bit of delay.
No, some would say delay is echo. Although we covered that one night, and they're not created equal.
Nope. They have different purposes, but accomplish similar goals. Good stuff.
Now, I was gonna do another horror, seeing as Halloween's coming up. I was gonna do a horror special tonight, but considering that Halloween's going to actually be next Thursday, we've got some spooky surprises for then. What I decided to go with tonight is kind of an extension on last week, where we looked at some common questions that we've been asked, and for tonight, what I decided to go with was topics that we don't necessarily get asked, but they're always like part of the topics and things that we talk about. So let me bring up what we're going to be looking at, and we'll take a look at what we've got lined up.
Sounds good.
There we go. And to start it off, I thought this is a great topic. Fresh Channel's Zach Hyde talks about something that we have kind of covered on different nights when we talked about like writer's block and, getting around those moments where creatively you're not always feeling it. And this video just like stood out to me as I was looking through things. Those moments where you feel like you've fallen out of love with your creativity, which is a lot like writer's block. It's the kind of thing that tends to lead to that situation. Right. But Zach's going to actually give some suggestions on how how to fall back in love with your creativity, get back to those things that actually got you being creative in the first place.
Right.
And, and I feel like that's an important topic at certain times of year. For me, there are times where you feel the creative burnout, and this time of year, middle of winter, late spring, for different people, it kind of hits at different points throughout the year.
Mm-hmm. Indeed.
And
Sometimes
I've,
it's about
I've,
holidays. Sometimes it's about just getting darker earlier and all that kind of thing. Weather changing.
yeah, for me, I sometimes I suspect it is the like drastic changes of the season and mentally readjusting,
Yeah.
which kind of leads to the next video, which when it comes to like mental health and something that we all, I feel, deal with, or at least deal with people who are dealing with it. And ADHD is, a very common thing, especially when you're talking creative types. Those who tend to be more creative also sometimes tend to struggle more with things like ADHD. And Dr. Murphy gives some great advice here on things that can kind of instigate and make the situation worse, kind of trigger the problems where they become more of a problem. And he's going to talk about, like, what you can avoid so that you don't compound that kind of situation. Because mental health is just as important for creativity as learning your scales and everything else.
Absolutely.
And then we're going to shift Mike over at Creative Sauce. It's been a while since we've got to check him out. Earlier this year, he was changing studios, adjusting to Cakewalk becoming a paid product. So he had a little hiatus as he was relocating, and I'm glad to see he's back and covering some of the things that we love to cover. Here he's going to show us a plugin that it's his favorite of 2024. So I'm really curious to see how he's using this. This is a plugin designed for those transitional parts in songs. How do you get your bridges to mesh with the verses and go into the choruses? And this is a plugin that kind of helps with the transitioning of parts and things like that. Very interesting approach.
Nice.
That's going to be coming from Creative Sauce.
Mm-hmm.
And this one is, to tap into some of the MIDI news, because me, it's all about MIDI. And we've covered a lot of these new MPC devices, and we've seen these new controllers that can do all these amazing new MIDI 2 things, like last week, that Andrew Hong video with the device that could read the hands and gestures. And in order for these devices to work, MIDI 2 is a real important ingredient in that. And those who are over on the Mac side have been lucky, because Apple's a little ahead of the game there. They've had good support for MIDI 2 for quite some time. Well, Windows was a little slower to the gate there, and this next service update that's going to be coming out this month is a big deal. A lot of these new controllers and things, they're now going to finally be supportable over on the Windows side, and that's a important change that needs to happen. So about time, Microsoft.
There you go. Something for the Windows.
And then just to lighten things up a little bit, Steve Terryberry, one of the funniest music channels that we come across, and this just completely I related with, because we've both been in bands and we've dealt with the different situations with different band members and the challenges of getting a band actually to work together. And he's gonna kind of lighten things up a little bit and talk about why being in a band sucks and it's getting worse. Although I think he looks at it in a lighthearted way. I don't think he thinks it really sucks, but he does a good job of pointing out some of the things that can suck when you're trying to get all your bandmates to work together.
Nice.
And I love how he does his shot here. I had to pin this one up as the screen.
Yeah. Good thumbnail.
And for our final one, Scott Owl, we visited his channel in the past, specifically for monitoring, where he is one of the de facto sources. If you're trying to improve your monitoring, especially on stage, because that's where a lot of his reviews and advice, it's for those performing musicians who either have crappy monitoring or really want to up their game on the monitoring so that they can perform the way that they want to perform. And he's had some videos that talk about like the differences between analog monitoring and digital monitoring, and he tends to be more of an advocate for the digital monitoring these days. There's compelling reasons to switch to digital monitoring, and what he's reviewing here, the SHURE Axient monitoring system, he suggests it's a game changer, and I kind of agree with him. This is the kind of monitoring I would want on stage, and you deal with that all the time with the stage work, and I'm really curious to get your thoughts on, like, what this brings to the monitoring table.
Nice.
Especially, with wireless monitoring, where it gets even trickier.
Sure. Everyone's got their ears, and you got to make sure you're on the right channel, for sure.
Yeah, and Scott's a great source for this kind of advice. Got to get Mikey checking him out. You guys might.
Every time I try to bring one of the audio things to Mike, like he's like, "Oh, I've been watching that guy for years."
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he's checked him out. When it comes to the monitoring advice, I mean, really, I've gone through a whole bunch of his videos, and nobody covers this part of the stage technology like he does.
Right. Very cool.
But let's get started with Zach. This is coming from at Zach Hyde. I'm going to go with Hyde. Hyde over on YouTube. He's got a link tree here that shows his additional links and channels. And it does look like, he does cover a lot of composing. We'll have to check this channel out more when we go back to composing later.
Yeah.
But
what do you close to your heart?
Oh yeah. Well, that's the one that I could cover every week. I could do a whole show just on the composers.
Indeed.
But here he's going to kind of talk about, like, falling out of love with your craft, burning out, those situations that, like, when the fun starts to become work and it no longer drives you to want to do it. And whether we're talking musicians or other creative art, this is something that everybody runs into with their creativity at times. And it's a good thing to talk about it. It's a good thing to address and recognize and not let yourself get into that slump where you just feel like quitting.
Yeah, for sure. Find reasons to keep going back to it. And some of the best advice I ever got was just pick it up every day. And it was from some of the YouTube channels that I watch, where it's just, doesn't matter if you only have 5 minutes, doesn't matter if you only have 10 minutes, pick it up and do something with it, whether it's piano, guitar, whatever. Just do something. And that way, you're keeping it fresh. Even if you have to take a day off, don't punish yourself for taking a day off, but at the same time, try to get to it for at least a couple minutes every day.
Yeah, and keeping it fresh really is a big key to. I think a lot of times when we do feel that burnout, it's because the creativity has become stagnant. I keep playing the same chords. I keep playing in the same scale. Changing things up a little bit here and there helps to make it feel new again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
And when you see, one thing I have noticed in the last couple of months over on the BandLab side, I've seen a lot of people who are going through this kind of attitude, and a lot of posts saying, oh, I'm leaving BandLab, and in effect, I'm quitting music. Every day I see at least a couple of posts coming from different artists who are frustrated. Sometimes they're frustrated with the platform. They're frustrated with the results they might be getting. There's an expectation, on BandLab that you make this great song and you don't get the response that you might want from a platform like BandLab. Well, that's going to happen. Some platforms are not the place to gauge the quality of your material. So never let that be the reason why you get into this situation where you lose your creativity.
Yeah, I mean, the main thing is to try to make the music for yourself. Just make the music to make the music. Don't make the music for the number of likes or shares or all of that. Don't worry as much about the numbers and all of that. Worry about making the song as the best you can.
Yeah, definitely don't let the numbers and all of that be your primary motivator, because if you do, you're going to set yourself up for feelings of disappointment, because it's very hard to get the kind of numbers and reactions that we tend to want and expect. And, sometimes when you first start out on a platform like BandLab and you've never put stuff out and you get reactions, it's new and it's like, wow, I actually got some reactions. Then as you put more stuff out and you don't necessarily see the same results, don't let that get you down.
Right. Exactly. Just keep doing keep doing the work, keep putting in the time, keep making make the content. And, at some point you have a big collection of content. Then, it's not a question of, if you just sit there and allow yourself to just be stuck, then you're not getting the ideas out. And if you're not getting the ideas out, or if you don't like the ideas that are coming out, I think I'm back. Are you back?
I can't tell if that was me or you. I think I blipped.
I think it was both of us.
But we are back.
Yes.
All right. Well, Ann said if you bring yourself up a little hard to hear. I hear you good, though.
Yeah, I came up to 120. We'll see if that helps. 120%.
You're like Spinal Tap. Yours goes to 11.
Yep. Okay,
let's see what Zach has to say and how we can fall back in love with our art.
Art stop being fun for you. Maybe when you started, it was just an outlet. It was an opportunity for you to just express yourself. If you had a bad day, you could go and make some music. If you were feeling stressed about something, you could write about it. It was an emotional outlet for you. And that's what made it so fun to show up, because you knew every time that you showed up to make art, you were healing yourself in some ways. You were giving something back to yourself. And in a way, you would make art and you'd feel full at the end of making that art. But at some point down the road, that stopped. It stopped being about filling your tank, and it started to feel like emptying your tank. That after sessions where you would do your art composing, you would feel drained, and you'd feel worse than you did before. So what happened? What shifted in that point in time where suddenly the thing you love is starting to become the thing that you feel like you have to do instead of the thing you want to do? I've talked to a lot of students about this, and I've reflected on this myself, and oftentimes what we tend to think is there's some knowledge gap that's holding us back from feeling good about our art. That like, oh, if I just learn this certain thing, if I could just do this one thing, then I would feel great, and that's the thing I have to learn so I can feel great. The problem with that is, if that's the way that you buy into making art, then the practice of showing up for your art is not necessarily going to be a fun one, because it's all based on future thinking. Once I get this thing, then I'll feel good. But I'm sure you can imagine what's going to happen when you do get that thing. And there's no finish line, right? Like you're going to, if it's orchestration, you're going to learn orchestration, you're going to get good at it, but you're going to feel like there's still things that you have to learn. And so you're going to feel bad and you're going to keep beating yourself up. Yeah, but now I don't know this thing, or now I realize I really don't know what I'm doing. And I just don't think it's a sustainable way to have an enjoyable relationship with your art. But I'd like to propose something else instead to you. Instead of treating your art as something you have to do, and treating the tasks within your art as things that you have to do to get somewhere, I want you to reframe this a little bit. What do you want to do? Like when you make art, what do you want to do? Because it is not an objective thing. It's very subjective, and it's really based on doing what makes you feel good. You know, if you show up and you want to get better at orchestration, but you're just not feeling it, and instead you just feel like jamming on an instrument, what's stopping you from doing that? Just jam on your instrument. You know, you're going to get better regardless, as long as you're showing up. So why not make the process of showing up something you actually enjoy? In my experience working with a bunch of students and composers through my mentorship group, what I notice is that sure, there are some knowledge gaps that we desire to improve our art and get it to a place where we're happy with it naturally. But there's a refusal to acknowledge the growth that we have or have had. And there is a resistance to making art feel playful and fun and curious. And I want to change that. I believe that art can be fun while you're making it. I don't like the idea that art has to be this slog and this painful thing, and artists suffer so that other people can enjoy what they do. I just don't believe that. I don't want a lifestyle as an artist where it's pain constantly. I want to love what I do and love the process of making something, and then have other people feel that love and feel that joy and inspiration. It's a huge reason why I make videos on this channel in the first place. Is art always going to feel fluid and joyful? Absolutely not. Of course, there's times when things get difficult and you have to work through some tough problems. But where's the motivation to work through those problems come from? I believe it comes from an inner conviction that it's going to work out, and that in time you're going to make something that you love. And then there's all this fear and anxiety and scarcity people feel about, well, what if I put all this time in and Nobody hears my music. What if I put all this time in and it doesn't get me any work? Doing something you love isn't a waste of time. That is the outcome. And the only thing you need to evaluate is if you're loving it while you're doing it. You've got to make that process of showing up for your art an enjoyable one. And it's going to involve you tapping into muscles that maybe you haven't flexed since you were a kid. When I was feeling burnt out, what I wound up doing was asking myself, what did it feel like to make art as a kid? How was I different? How did I show up differently? And for me, it was like, I didn't finish a lot of stuff. I was much slower. I had a lot more input. I would take more walks. I would read fiction books. I would play more games. I'd listen to music more. I was more patient with myself. I didn't have expectations, I was more focused on the process of making something cool than I was about the hopes of something transforming my life or my career. And when I was able to tap into that, redecorating my studio, reading more, writing more, listening to music more, hanging out with friends, the art flowed for me much more naturally. And I'm sure you can see it in these new videos where I'm making this dark fantasy album. I just wish for artists everywhere to not put so much pressure on themselves and to learn how to treat art as an outlet again, whether it's as a hobby, professionally, or anything in between. In order for you to do what you love, you have to love what you do. And it takes active effort to maintain that love, but it has to come from a place of curiosity, joy, lightness, conviction, faith. These are skills that need to be nourished if you're an artist who wants to continue to enjoy what you do. And I wish that for you and for me and for every artist out there. Don't fall out of love with your craft. Really take effort to make sure that it stays fun. Because fun's the name of the game. You can't guarantee that you're going to make a masterpiece ever in your life. You can't guarantee that hundreds of people, thousands, anything, a single person, you can't guarantee that anybody will listen to your music. So you may as well just enjoy the process. And whatever happens from that enjoyment happens. Or doesn't happen. But for goodness sake, keep staying in love with your art. Do stuff you're passionate about. When you're not passionate, be willing to change and adapt so that you can find that passion again.
Oh, great advice, Zach.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I've
Very
started
important.
checking out his dark fantasy. He's got 4 parts up so far as he's going through his composition there. And those of you interested in dark fantasy, check those out.
Nice. Yeah, and it's so important just to keep it light and playful was key takeaways for me as far as ways to get around. Like if you get into that slump or a rut, or you feel like you're not progressing, there are a lot of ways to try to get yourself out of it, and just any of those are great. Take a walk, rearrange things, all those kinds of things. They can all help.
Yeah, and Ange agrees with the fun.
Yes.
Creativity needs to be fun. I mean, sometimes it may not feel as fun as you want it to, but it needs to have the fun factor.
Yeah. And that's where, again, even, if you feel like you're, just doing the same thing over and over, something you mentioned earlier, playing the same stuff over and over again, which a lot of people get into that. I had that with guitar for years, where I just only had a few things that I really knew how to play, and I would just play those few things and then kind of put the guitar down and not come back for weeks on end. But just by doing more of it every day and just doing something, whether it's just a couple of scales, just pick it up and hit random notes, just find something interesting to do, explore intervals, check out a root and a tenth, see what that sounds like. And just, playing with that sort of thing can really help.
Yeah, and a lot of what he was saying reminded me of my early days when he was talking about, like, when you first start out, you're a little more free and expressive, and I was that way for a good 7, 8 years when I first got my keyboard. It was all just constant experimentation, no real like goal in mind, just kind
Yep.
of getting to know the instrument, and that that was the funnest time in my music making. When I got into the theory and decided I wanted to learn more and I wanted to get better, things shifted. And I went through a lot of what he was talking about through the 90s as I got more educated with music, but it also started to become this goal driven of I've got to learn this, I've got to learn this. And like he said, as soon as you learn one thing, you realize there's so many more things that you need to go learn, and that can sometimes get in the way of that like freedom that you have when it's new to you.
Yeah. Another part of that is the fact that when you realize that there's all this extra stuff that you need to learn, or you find out what you don't know, at that point, then you're like, well, now I can't finish what I'm trying to do until I learn that. So now you're putting extra, steps in between you and the goalpost. You keep pushing the goalpost further away by saying, okay, now I need to learn all of this before I can do that. Now I need to learn all of this before I can do that.
Yeah.
And it just goes into a, kind of a little spiral like that, where it just keeps getting further away. So it's like, I'm never making any progress. So why am I even doing it? You get that kind of.
And a little bit of irony there. When I first started out, I did actually finish more things then than I did later on as I started to learn, and finishing things became a bigger challenge. There's always this feeling like you said, if I don't know this, then I can't finish this. And when it comes to finishing a piece, it's tough to surrender
Exactly. Surrender.
your creativity sometimes, and just be happy with what you did in that moment.
Mhm. And
I,
again,
I
sometimes the
I
more
like
theories you
his
have.
emphasis. I liked his emphasis on asking yourself, don't ask what you have to do. Ask yourself what you want to do,
Yep.
and that is something when artists are coming in and they're like, I got a new song. That's something I ask them constantly. Uh, what are you wanting to do with this song? What is the goal of this song? What are you trying to express? What are you trying to show in your music ship? That's an important question to ask yourself.
Yeah, and in some cases, a lot of that should be evident in the product itself. Like you should see how much effort went in. You should see how where they are in their progression based on what you're seeing from the music. But like you were saying about surrendering the mix, the mix is never done, right? The mix is
Yeah.
you surrender the mix at some point, and so that's one of the things about finishing stuff early is that we're less critical of ourselves in the early stages, so that we can hey, I wrote a song, 10 notes and then done. You put it out there and here's a song. But whereas now it's more, oh, I have to put these effects on and I have to do this and I have to, do all this mastering. Like you're trying to do all the steps of the entire process just to get an idea out. And that's where something like BandLab, I think, is perfect for some of the idea stuff where it's, I have an idea, I want to get it out there, I want people to work on it with me, and then we can take it from there and make it more serious if we need to.
Yeah, and it's even trickier nowadays to figure out when something's done, because in the old days, hey, if you mastered that CD or you got that tape produced or that record produced, then it was done. You would have to go back, spend a lot more money to come out with another version. So when it was done in the old days, it was done.
Yep.
Now you have like this digital ability to remaster and go back and with new tricks do the song a different way. And these days, I think the mentality more is, well, it's done for now.
Yeah. Yep. This is good enough for this round.
Yeah, which is part of the evolution of any song. It, for me, like some of the songs that I'm looking back at now that I'm considering redoing because I have whole different equipment, whole different understanding. I mean, these are 20, almost 30-year-old songs at this point. So they've gone full circle. I'm going from analog to digital in remaking these songs.
Yeah, and you can still reconnect though with the emotion that you had when you were making the songs in the first place, right? I mean, all of that still comes through. It's just a matter of reapplying newer techniques to the song that's already there.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the trickiest part in some cases is remembering what the hell I played back in the 90s.
Exactly. That can be tricky.
That was awesome advice, Zach, and I will be checking out that dark fantasy composition. I love the composers, so I'm glad we got this channel added to our arsenal.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah, great advice. And now we're going to go to a doctor, Dr. Murphy. He's an ADHD coach. He's over on YouTube at Effective Effort Consulting ADHD. And, for any of you out there who want to understand more about ADHD or are going through it or with anybody who is going through it, these are the kind of resources on YouTube that are invaluable in understanding what you might be struggling with or dealing with. And the reason why I picked this one is because it is a very common theme in the creative groups. I can't tell you how many artists that I have talked to who all say they have ADHD. They acknowledge it. They understand that, like, it's something that they're struggling with. And in a lot of cases, they put it, by recognizing it, it's the first step to working with it, working around it, dealing with it.
Sure.
So I wanted to include this one because what he's going to be talking about here is, things that can make it worse, can kind of compound the struggle, and in some cases it becomes almost like an avalanche of what you're dealing with and how you're dealing with it, and as it gets worse, dealing with it gets harder. So I think it's good to understand when you might be compounding it a little bit.
Yeah, and it's important to recognize these things in yourselves and in others. So it's important to see when people are struggling with these things, how you can assist them as well.
Yeah, yeah, and it's something that, like, typically people think you have to be diagnosed with it, and there's a strict approach to diagnosing it. But I do personally feel that nowadays everybody has a little bit of it, because we live in a time now where everything, short attention span, is being instigated by everything around us. Those shorts and going through feeds on Facebook and next mentality kind of makes it hard to focus at times. And you're always thinking, like, you got to get on to the next thing, otherwise you're going to miss something. But if you don't actually stop once in a while to focus on something, you're going to miss something anyway.
Yeah. I mean, it's important even just to, when I notice things getting too kind of high speed in life, it's basically time to, sit down and read a book, do something like that. Like it's old school, but nothing is drawing you away from it. It's like you got your book and you just pound your way through it, and you're reading your way through, and nothing's distracting you unless you want it to distract you, or unless you allow it to distract you.
And that's where those who really are struggling with it, that is their challenge, is to not get distracted when they're trying to focus. Those who have the toughest time are the ones who can't keep their focus on something. And the best you could do, I guess, is to just keep exercising the mind so that you can get to that point of 5 minutes of focus, 10 minutes of focus, 30 minutes of focus. The more you can help yourself to just expand that focus range, the easier it's going to get to start to deal with this.
Sure.
Otherwise, you're just going to feel overwhelmed constantly with mind racing, new thoughts, and it's kind of hard to grasp one.
Mm-hmm. Important to slow down and listen to one thing, focus on one thing.
Yeah. That smell the roses, they're on to something there. So let's see what these three things that could make things worse if you're struggling with ADHD.
Right.
Dr. Murphy.
Are some basic everyday habits that are making your ADHD symptoms even worse. I'm going to share out 3 possible areas that you could start working on right away that can start to transform your ADHD symptoms. I'm Dr. Murphy, David Murphy, ADHD coach and executive function coach. I've been working for over 20 years as a special education teacher coach, working with students and adults with ADHD. These topics always come up. Topic number 1. It's pretty basic. Sleep hygiene, sleep habits. You will find that by claiming consistent sleep routines, that your anxiety can decrease, your well-being will increase, and your ability to focus and manage the day would change significantly in some cases. Studies show that 75% of adults reportedly deal with sleep issues or sleep difficulties. This can significantly exacerbate the symptoms of ADHD and make your journey of managing this condition even harder. So it's extremely important when you think about the priorities of life to get disciplined if possible, right? With consistent sleep patterns. Pick a goal, pick a time frame to get to bed, and then develop really clear strategies for yourself that can really be a game changer. For example, one of our clients, Sarah, she was really struggling as a college student to get things done because she was becoming a night owl. And so her evenings were getting later and later into the early mornings. And she really started to find herself with kind of an opposite sleep schedule that would be productive as a student. And it was significantly exacerbating her academic performance, primarily because of her ADHD. So we started to really help her develop strategies and tools and routines and schedules that allowed her to become more consistent by anchoring her attention during the day. This significantly improved how she was able to shift from being kind of in a chaotic time management process to something more consistent, where she decided by 11 o'clock she wanted lights out, and she had to really work backwards from there to say, okay, what do I need to do into developing tools and strategies? For example, just deciding on a bedtime routine was extremely transformative for her. Limiting caffeine and screen time before bed became transformative as well. So, and I think maybe a third one is really trying to develop some relaxation techniques, whether it's mindfulness practices or just listening to really relaxing music before bed to really decrease the chatter of thought, but also lower the stress, lower the anxiety, lower the emotions to help transition into sleep mode. Tip number 2, diet. What we put in our body can exacerbate the symptoms of attention, focus, and mood. And so it's extremely important when you're looking at a holistic treatment plan to manage ADHD is to become really accountable and honest around the food I put in and how it provides for me and helps promote my well-being throughout the day and increases my attention and focus. This is a tough topic, but it can start with just the recognition that poor diet can translate into poor attention, poor focus, increased anxiety and stress as I try to figure out how to manage ADHD without the proper nutrition. Experts would agree, and there's various studies that show that what I put in my body, whether it's protein in the morning, right, cutting out sugar throughout the day, and developing some type of restricted diet that allows me to minimize and even eliminate certain foods that become inflammatory in my body and really kind of force my body to have to work even harder to manage those chemicals or those processed foods in my system, and how that can then lead into increased challenges when it comes to sustained attention and focus and mood regulation. So it's a great place to start, especially if you're not doing medication. But if you're working on your sleep and you're working on your diet, you're gonna see profound changes. It's not easy, but it's definitely worth it. Here's a few suggestions. One is try omega-3 fatty acids consistently. They're found in fish, and this can be transformative as a supplement in improving attention and mood regulation during the day. Another one is whole grain foods. Can help stabilize blood sugar and consistent energy levels. Try that consistently. And this is a great one. Avoid sugar. Start that in the morning. Black coffee, lots of water. Try to see how long I can go during the day without sugar. You'll start to see how it helps. Your mood starts to stabilize, your attention starts to stabilize, and your well-being starts to stabilize because you're not having these sugar spikes and highs and lows. Give it a try. It will help. Habit number 3. Disorganization. Struggles with organizational systems, time management systems, planning systems can derail productivity and derail emotional well-being. Just imagine how bringing order to this chaos can start to create predictability and rhythm and well-being. So it's important to see this as a top priority, that if I can manage, if I can regulate, if I can take hold of, can be transformative in helping to support my ADHD symptoms. For example, Mark, a young professional we worked with, entering the workforce, didn't really have these systems in place. Bright, capable, was definitely where he belonged professionally, given his passions and interests, but he was falling behind on deadlines, falling behind on due dates, falling behind on benchmarks related to his work responsibilities because he didn't have those systems in place, and it was overwhelming. And he was dealing with reprimands and repercussions of that from his peers and his employers. So extremely important to understand the initial impact, but also the global impact that that can have on your well-being, personal life, and professional life. And studies would back this up. I mean, UPenn, for example, did this study where they found that building in organizational systems for students, like young adults in college, it had a 45% reduction in stress and missed due dates. Just think of that. A few tips to keep in mind. One is, some people have said, well, I've tried a planner, didn't work. I've tried a calendar, doesn't work. That's not true. It's the consistent use of tools and strategies and resources, and consistently using them can allow you to get better and better and better. So use something like Trello, use something like Google Calendar to help facilitate this transition into more of an organized process to manage due dates, manage expectations, manage ADLs, the activities of daily living, grocery shopping, for example. Another one is, this is harder, but if I have a planner process, if I have a calendar, then it gets better at breaking assignments into manageable parts. It's extremely rewarding and I guess life fulfilling when I can successfully do that, right? Something's coming up on Friday and it's Monday. How do I break that project into manageable parts? Like, I can't just wing that. I don't have the skills to do that. I don't have the executive function to do that. So I need a planner-like system. I need a calendar-like system to anchor my attention and break those things down in manageable parts, and it allows me to be more successful. And also, try out daily reminders. Daily reminders are a great tool or strategy. You can use that on Google Keep. You can use that on your iPhone. You can use that on any smart device, in your phone, even on your smartwatch, to create reminders for yourself to allow you to track priorities and set timers when you're going to be home at 3 o'clock and you want to remind you to do something when you walk in the door. That can be really valuable. In conclusion, you think about these 3 habits that we sometimes ignore. We just kind of go through the day-to-day thinking that this ADHD symptom, I'll be able to fix that with just medication. Yeah, but there's so many other effective ways that we can improve our focus, improve our mood, improve our performance, improve our balance in life. And I hope this video has helped you to really become more aware and even maybe become accountable to yourself and what you're going to do to turn those areas around and turn them into strengths, not weaknesses. I hope this helps. All the best.
Oh, it helps a lot, Dr. Murphy. That helped clear up a whole bunch of things I suspected about where this kind of became a problem for me over the years. It almost seems like common sense, sleeping habits and diet. These are things I always suspected were instigating a chunk of this problem for me. And in the work world, my sleeping habits changed drastically, going from third shift to first shift. And that's when I began to notice this problem more.
Sure. Sleep disruption, as you mentioned, can be very big on that, and not getting enough sleep, bad sleep hygiene essentially doesn't help at all. Like getting a schedule for that happened to me all the time. Sure.
Not necessarily having that dedicated time for things that you would focus on. Like when it came to making music, I tended to be that night owl who, like, it would hit midnight, and now was the time that I all of a sudden wanted to write, and I'd write throughout the night. It was quiet, and I could do it. But as my sleeping habits started to become more and more flipped like that, it got harder and harder to actually take advantage of that quiet time. And then I'd be feeling like, oh, I've got to do it when the other half of the day, and when is there time for sleep at that point? And that's where it does become that avalanche of, I barely slept through my 20s and 30s and early 40s, and screwed myself on both sides.
Hmm. Yeah. And the whole, once you do start, realizing that you're, wanting to shift your schedule more back into daytime again, and like you said, you find yourself, you might not get the same motivation to do the work during the day. So like, daytime's there, you're doing other things, and all of a sudden it's nighttime again, and it's like, oh, now it's bedtime, and I didn't get anything done. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And his diet advice, I'm gonna really take a serious look at what he's suggesting there. The fish oil, I've had friends who have taken that approach to help with this kind of solution, as well as other like dietary solutions for what they were dealing with. And the fish oil one seems to have helped them dramatically. You mentioned you got to be careful. You can't overdo it. It's like overdosing on vitamins. In some cases, you don't want too much of something. You've got to find that healthy balance. But there does seem to be a lot of benefit there for helping to declog the mind.
Sure. Yeah, omega 3s are supposed to be good for the brain, and even just good variety in your diet, is a good idea in general. And whole grains, nothing wrong with that as well. It all sounded like good advice to me. I've actually
Yes.
been eating a simpler diet because I've been doing a lot. I do food shopping with mom a lot, so we buy, we're buying stuff like grapes and bananas and things like that, and just unprocessed, raw food that I never really did that much. I was always more of a processed food guy. I was always more, eating takeout and whatever. Now it's more like I'm buying ingredients and just eating the ingredients. So it's
Yeah.
more, much more simplified.
Yeah, I always just ate whatever was in front of me. It's hard to have a good diet if you're just consuming whatever.
Mhm. Exactly.
It's good to put some thought into it. And,
Yeah.
and his third tip, that's the one where I think I did well on the organizational approach.
Hmm.
That might have been my saving grace, having bad sleeping habits and bad dietary habits. At least my organizational approach helped to at least balance it a little bit and keep me functional during that time.
Hmm. Yeah. And again, different people have different things, different ways that will react or work well for them. But don't be afraid to try some of the things is the main thing. Examine your diet, whether it's about taking the specific dietary advice or not. It's about examining what your diet is like, or examining what your sleep habits are like, and seeing in what ways you can and make small improvements.
Yeah. Well, I will be back for more, Dr. Murphy. He's got a website, a mothership for all of this, effectiveeffortconsulting.com. That's tied to the YouTube channel. And I am going to go down this rabbit hole because
Mhm.
I do feel like I've never been diagnosed with it, but I have felt the struggles of it,
Indeed. And I
both
know
on
plenty of
the
people.
inside and from people who I work with,
Mhm.
and knowing how to, like he said, manage this.
Mhm.
It's not something that you're just going to cure. It's something that you need to learn how to manage.
Yep. It's about having the toolkit to work around with it. Yeah.
Yes, excellent advice, excellent channel. I'm glad we got this added in. I do feel this complements, creative approaches. And for the creative types out there who feel that sometimes it's tough to narrow in on what you're trying to do,
Mhm.
if this is part of the problem, it's good to know it, and it's good to understand what you're dealing with there.
Absolutely.
Now, Mike over at Creative Sauce. I miss you, man.
Mike.
Yeah, it's good to see him back in action, new studio. I'm really curious to see what he's been doing, especially on the cakewalk side. Given he was kind of on the fence like me, Cakewalk is now going back to Sonar paid product. I don't want to leave the product, so I'm hoping that there's a affordable, reasonable option, because I've gotten so used to it. It is my go-to DAW, but since the news came out, I've looked at one of his recommendations, Studio One. Reaper is creeping up at my door. Thank you, Jason. And I really want to see where he goes as Sonar is now back in action. Like, they have released the final, and the next couple of months going to be a critical time for you Cakewalk users. And if you do want to learn more about Cakewalk, Creative Sauce numero uno channel. Like, the main reason why we started following him way back when was because of the awesome Cakewalk advice.
Yeah, for sure.
But he also does plugins and covers, things that you're going to use in Cakewalk. And he's over at Creative Sauce over on YouTube. And you will find videos on all sorts of plugins, the Cakewalk tips, hardware reviews. Mike is great at covering it all.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And this plugin, I hadn't heard of it. This one's new to me, but it's a plugin that's designed to handle the transitional moments in your songs, which that's kind of unique to me, that like they've got a plugin that focuses on giving good transitions between your parts, something that I think is real important.
Indeed. Sometimes it sounds like it's just two parts that don't make sense, that are just kind of bolted together. So this is to try to, ease that transition and make it so that it's going to work better.
Or get that difference of mix from the verse to the bridge to the chorus to just kind of seamlessly blend.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And from what he suggests here, you can save yourself a couple of different effects in your chain. This one can help you to consolidate things that you might have done with different plugins into one plugin, which I always love. If you can simplify the chain and the workflow, that's always a positive to me.
Yeah, for sure.
So let's see.
Be able to see under the hood when we need to, but yeah, simplifying the process is for sure a good
thing. Understand what's going on under the hood, but if you don't actually have to go in there and fiddle with it, then it's nice.
Exactly.
Let's see what Mike says about Transit 2.
Released, many people were using it like this. But that was Transit 1. This is Transit 2. Hi folks, I'm Mike, and I hope you're well. Transit, as its name suggests, is really good at transitions, especially during build-ups. But when I used it for the first time, I felt that it had so much more potential than that. And I hoped for features in version 2 that would reflect that. Well, it's as if Baby Audio, in conjunction with Andrew Huang, were reading my mind, because they've added kind of exactly the features that I was hoping for, making it, in my opinion, the best plugin of 2024, or at very least, least the best value for money plugin. Now, more on that later. Also later, I'll be giving a pro tip to you guitarists out there who are hoping to use this plugin in real time. But before all that, just in case you're new to Transit, let me get you up to speed. To get started with Transit, I need to populate at least one of the 7 module slots we can see here. I'm going to start off by adding in one of the new modules for this version called Retro Reverb. Now you can see right away with this module that one of the controls has this blue ring around it. This indicates that it's going to be affected as I make use of my main transition knob over here on the left hand side, and you can see that in action right away. Now I can adjust the range of effect by grabbing the handles on the end of this blue ring like so, and making the range in this case a lot smaller, and you can see that in effect as I adjust my transition control on the left. We can also reverse that range by right clicking on the control, and it turns pink to indicate that now it's going to be happening in reverse, and again you can see that in action right away. Now one of the nice things we can do is adjust the slope. We do that just by dragging on this line that we can see in the middle here, and now as I've adjusted that slope, you can see that when I change the transition control, the effect is much quicker at the beginning and slows down towards the end. It's a really nice organic kind of feeling to that. Now of course you could do all of this with automation using your existing plugins in your DAW, but it would get a lot more complex for you as you added in more controls. Let's do that right away by clicking on the little circles in the middle here to switch motion on for a couple of the other controls. I'll adjust the range and the slope again like so. Now to get the kind of motion that we're using now as I adjust the transition knob, it would take at least 3 lanes of automation in your DAW. Let me load up now a preset that I was using right at the beginning where I was making use of 6 of the 7 module slots here, and as I adjust my transition knob, you can see that a lot of the controls in the various modules are being affected, and it would take many lanes of automation to do that normally, but in this case I was using just 1 lane of automation. Let's have a look at that in action. So the most obvious use for this is in situations like the one I demonstrated there, in a kind of a build up in a song. But I always thought that there was much more to this plugin than that. I always felt that you could use it really creatively by automating that transition knob throughout a performance. Well, now in version 2, both Baby Audio and Andrew Huang have made that process a lot simpler and a lot more fun. In the examples so far, I'd inserted Transit 2 onto the master bus, so it was affecting the whole mix. But to demonstrate some of these new features, I've now inserted it onto an individual instrument track, that being a synth sound that I was using. Now, just so that you know what you're listening for later on when you hear it in the mix, I'm quickly just going to play it for you in solo now. Now here again, you saw me affecting it using this big transition control here. And that's because we're in macro mode at the moment. But in Transit 2, we have 5 additional modes to choose from. And we access them by clicking on the label at the top here. The first of these additional modes is LFO. Now this is a timing-based mode where the speed of the movement is controlled with the rate control up here. You can also control range, the wave type, and the smoothness as well. The easiest way to understand this is to look and to listen. Now, what I love about this is you get that repetitive and musical motion without having to write any automation whatsoever. So this is really nice. The next mode I'm going to look at is the follower mode. Now, with this mode, it's listening to the intensity of the incoming signal and responding to that. Now, how much it responds depends on the detection control here. We also have control over the range, the attack, and the release. So let's have a listen and a look to this one. So you can see there that the motion was only happening when the synth was playing those little stabs. Now, similar to this is the sidechain mode, but in this occasion, rather than listening to that synth, it's going to be listening to another source in our project. Now, exactly how you set that sidechain up depends on your particular DAW. So I'm not going to demonstrate that here, but in my DAW, I've set it up so it's going to be listening to the bass guitar, but adding the effect to the synth. Let's have a look at this one. So again, a great effect, and if you had to automate this, it would be very time consuming indeed. So this is a big time saver, this one. Moving on, let's go to the gate mode. Now with this one, the motion is only happening while we hold one of these buttons down. As soon as we release it, the motion stops. Now the speed of the motion is affected by which one of these buttons we press. So you're going to see it move up and down as I hold my mouse down on one of these buttons. Let's have a try. Now, as you saw, it just played through once there, but we can set it to a kind of a ping pong effect with this pendulum control here, and also we can make it loop here as well. Let's try that again. Now, similar to this is also the sequencer mode, but unlike the gate mode, this is not going to play immediately as soon as you press one of these buttons. It's going to wait till the next bar before it starts to play the motion. So let's have a look at this one. And again, you saw it just played through once there, but again, we can set up a pendulum and we can set up a loop as well. But these are not the only new features in Transit 2. So Transit 2 has 10 new modules included, bringing the total up to 28 modules. Now I want you to think about this for a moment, because I know that this plugin is going to be launching at around about $79 or so, meaning that each effect within it is only costing you around about $2.80. That's like getting 28 new plugins, if you like, for $2.80 each. It's definitely worth checking out the link in the description down below for that alone. But of course, there's so much more to it than that. With these different modes and your ability to create transitions between different settings on these effects, you're going to be possibly creating things that you wouldn't otherwise have created. So definitely check out the link below. Now, in terms of the new modules, we have a new analog chorus module here. There was previously a chorus module, but this one's got a bit more of an analog sort of flavor to it. We also have a great compressor module in here, and personally I think that a lot of people could learn about UI design from this very simple little compressor. There's also an EQ in there. We have a loop module. There's a modulation filter module, and then moving on from these, we also have a new pitch module in there. There's previously a pitch module, but this one's a little bit sort of cleaner, I suppose. We also have a retro reverb, an additional reverb module to the one that was previously there, and this one's got more of a sort of an analog gritty flavor to it, if you like. We've also got a reverser module in there, a great speaker module which replicates a small speaker sound, and then a warp module which is so so much fun. Basically, really great for sort of making things sound like they're slowing down or speeding up. So pretty good for the end of tracks and things. One of the magical things about music production is when happy accidents occur. When you accidentally play the wrong chord on your guitar, for example, but it turns out it actually sounds quite a lot better. It feels like there's some divine intervention happening. Well, they've tried to incorporate that into this plugin with the randomize feature. You can see it at the top of the plugin here. It looks like a little die, and when we click on it, you can see that all of the settings are changing and lots of different modules are swapping out as well. But you may notice that the top three modules, the phaser, delay, and filter 24, are staying the same, and that's because I've made use of the lock feature. If we click on that, then we can control which things stay in place and which things are randomized. So I had actually locked those three modules there. I could also lock things like particular settings as well. Now, talking about the lock feature, we also have a lock feature on our main control over here. In this case, it's set to macro, but as you saw earlier, we could say, for example, set it to, let's say, gate. Now, once I've got it on gate, I might think, I always want to use gate, but if I select a different preset, for example, I want to make sure it's locked in there. So I can lock it as a gate, and then if I go and select another preset like so, whatever I do, even though the modules and their settings have changed, the gate has stayed there. That's locked in place. Now, as I mentioned earlier, I've got a pro tip for you guitarists who may be using this plugin. And I've got to tell you, I had a lot of fun doing this. What I did was I took this very affordable expression pedal and I plugged it into my MIDI controller keyboard. That enabled me to send expression MIDI messages through to the plugin. Transit 2 has a MIDI learn function which made this super easy, and what that meant was that while I was recording my guitar and both of my hands were busy, I was able to affect the sound of the guitar in real time. It was a lot of fun and it felt really, really organic. Take a look at Footcam. Now, if you happen to be a Transit 1 user, you can upgrade to Transit 2 for just $29. That gives you those 5 extra modes and those 10 extra modules. Great value for money when you really think about it. Check out the link for that in the description down below. I'd love to hear all of your thoughts on this plugin. Is it something that you think you're going to make use of in your productions? Maybe you've already been using it. Let me know in the comments down below, and I'll see you in the next video.
Yes, yes, yes. I will use that in my audio production.
Yes. And like you said, UI design, high marks on that as well. Very clean, but it's all right there, and you can see how easy it is to work with. Very cool.
Yeah, and he just convinced me to actually bust out my expression pedal, and I now have something to use it for, because that was cool how he was just doing that, like with the expression pedal.
Oh yeah, using the wow.
Yeah, Baby Audio definitely deserves like props, and Andrew Wong, we had him on last week with that hand gesture review that he was doing. It goes to show you how influential he is. When those companies like work with him, they get great feedback, and what they've done with this version 2, the interface does something that's super complex in such a nice, easy to understand approach. I love the lock and randomize feature, the way that they implemented it. That's genius. I would love to see that kind of approach with other plugins.
Definitely. I liked a lot of what I saw with the design, like I said, in the controls and the locks, all of that. Very cool.
Yeah, I think the thing that impresses me the most is how it consolidates the automation of so many things into one simple automation lane. To do those kinds of things, in the old approach would have taken 6, 7 different lanes that you'd have to custom adjust and not have that like flexibility of saying like stay within this area, the ability to like set where you're actually moving and then move everything at once that way. That's a powerful time saver.
Yeah, for sure. Time saver, step saver, just makes everything more efficient throughout.
And gives a very unique dynamic sound approach, like hearing that guitar come in like that, and then pull back out, or that little like wah effect that's timed perfectly, and whether it's one time or you set it up for a loop. I love the way they designed this.
Yeah, it's definitely worth checking out and messing around with.
I definitely see guitarists eating this one up, but I also see this becoming something like popular with like the DJs and the ones who like to do those transitional swoops and bring the sound out to here for a second and then slide it as the part goes to something else.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that's going to be popular with them.
Sure. I can see that too.
And on the keyboard side, like you give me the right organ and to get that kind of like phasing, I could have a lot of fun with that. Dead songs with this kind of effect, you could really get psychedelic.
Absolutely. It adds a whole other dimension to the song.
Yeah, he never fails with his reviews, Mike. Awesome review. You've convinced me. That is getting added to the arsenal of tools. CreativeSauce.net. He does have a mothership, and he's at Creative Sauce over on YouTube. Awesome channel. Whether you're a Cakewalk user or anything else, you're going to find value with his reviews and his advice.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Always appreciate it, Mike.
Yeah. My favorite Cakewalk channel by far. So now we got a little news to get in there, and for the MIDI guys out there, me being one of them, all these new MIDI toys with the MPC controllers and the ability to slide your fingers up and down keys, or like Andrew did last week, move your hands around and trigger MIDI controls. MIDI 2 is something that has been a long time in the works. When it comes to standards, these kind of standards, they don't happen overnight. It took us 20 plus years to just get comfortable with MIDI 1, and with MIDI 2, everything's just expanding, like your ability to control things and how much control you can have over different parameters. You're going to see new types of instruments. We've seen some of them this year where, what you do on the controller itself, or even what you do around the controller, is now becoming part of the music control.
Mm-hmm. Indeed.
We've gone from just keyboards and guitars and banging on pads to like conducting.
Mm-hmm. And even when it comes to the buttons, like I was thinking about the buttons of the old arcade boxes, the old arcade machines, where they would take a severe beating, like just day after day of people like slapping the heck out of these buttons. Putting something like that onto something where someone's trying to do like the double kick drum, for example. If you could do that with the 2 fingers on 2 of those arcade buttons.
Oh, I could have kicked butt at that Olympic game. Yeah, I always thought about how could I cheat there, but you really couldn't.
It's not about cheating. It's about getting first place.
Yeah, but I want to run the fastest.
And get faster hands.
So this news is going to be coming from Jorn Graber, at Moss Graber over on YouTube, and I love what I'm seeing on this channel. He's a little bit of an aficionado because when he's talking about things like the Atari ST here, that's one of the first machines that came out with a built-in MIDI port back in the 80s. Like, I had a friend who had one, and I was so jealous because here I was with the Commodore, and I had to go buy a MIDI cartridge interface to plug into my keyboard, and the software sucked. And those who go back that far, who know like what the Atari ST was for those beginning MIDI users, he's a chip off of my own block. Plus, he's another one who's, Studio One, looking at Bitwig, looks at different DAWs, and covers the world of MIDI in a way that you don't typically see on the channels. There's a lot of information when it comes to MIDI that gets lost. A lot of people just use MIDI, but they don't tend to understand what's under the hood there and how much it's changing going from MIDI 1 to 2.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's the thing is, like you said, it enables new instruments now. Like, as far as, being able to do certain things, we can look at all the different things that we can start to do with all that stuff, and having things just interface more, more cleanly at this point.
Yeah, well, you're going to get a lot more expression with these new controllers, just like we saw with that Transit. The ability to do a bunch of things in one simple knob. With MIDI 2, the way that you can express is going to change, and this is important news for those, especially on the Windows side. I'm a Windows user. Not that I'm against the Mac. Mac has a lot of advantages with music, and one of them has been that they were on the MIDI 2 bandwagon a lot earlier, lot quicker support. A lot of these controllers we saw, you weren't getting full functional over on the Windows side, because to get this stuff to work right, you've got to get it into the core of the operating system. So this news for me is really important, because it means that, like, finally Microsoft is getting this instruction set into the core of the operating system so that we can start to see these controllers be cross-platform.
Yeah, and that would be key. Is having everything be cross-platform is preferable for sure. Because having everything be locked in on just the Apple side doesn't help. Because there are so many people who are either Windows fanboys or Apple fanboys that they won't investigate the other. They won't break what they're doing to go check the other side out. So it's best to have it be available everywhere.
Yeah, me personally, I hate to see anything that's locked to one side. Doesn't matter which side it is. When it's locked to one side, it limits the amount of creativity. And part of the reason why some of this technology takes off is because of the user base and how people contribute to the technology. And when you have something locked, you cut off a chunk of your user base, and then you don't get the kind of support, you don't get the kind of help from the community, because you have a smaller community. And for things like this, a bigger community is always better.
Sure. But I can also understand on the development side, like if it came about and was developed specifically for one side or the other, trying to make it cross-platform isn't always as easy as just release it over there.
Yeah.
There is more to it.
Well, and a big part when it comes to this is a standard. So right. The important thing with a standard like this is that both platforms actually implement it in a standard way. If one side decides to use different controller messages, different approach, then all of a sudden you're no longer dealing with a standard. You're dealing with proprietary, and this is where, Apple sometimes can be a culprit there. sometimes they take a proprietary approach, but fortunately, when it comes to music, they don't mess around. When it comes to standards, they set them, and they're good at making sure that all sides work the same way.
Yeah.
So, what we're going to see here is that the next update that's going to be coming out for Windows this month is going to incorporate this into it, and also on the ARM processor, which is a little different than the Intel side of things, and for mobile devices and things like that, that's a big deal as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So let's see what Jörn says about this news that Windows MIDI 2 is finally coming to Microsoft Windows.
All right.
So hello all Windows users, and if you are a Windows user, you are wondering two things in the last time. First is, when the heck will MIDI 2 be finally ready on Windows? And number two, can I actually use those cool nice new laptops with the Snapdragon X processor, which is an ARM processor? And we have new infos about that. Good Pete Brown, he's fighting the good fight for us musicians inside of Microsoft, got us covered with new information. So first thing, what about MIDI 2.0? It was actually promised to be part of the new Windows feature update, so the 24H2 update, and I was totally surprised to not find this functionality inside of this update, and there was also no information about what is about to expect. And Pete told us now it takes a little bit longer, and the reason for that is ARM, but we will have a look at that as well in a second. First, let's have a look what is so cool that we want MIDI 2.0 on Windows. It's not only about MIDI 2.0, so MIDI 2.0, I did lots of videos about that, so watch them if you're curious about that. Is very cool in itself, but the new architecture we are given now on Windows, so this new framework to access MIDI helps us a lot. So it will finally get rid of this issue that you can open a driver, a MIDI driver, only once. You know this infamous and totally misleading error: there is not enough memory available to access your MIDI device, which is the most pointless error ever. So this will hopefully go away, and you will also get a new unified MIDI API to develop also software which can use the old driver model. So everything will be integrated into that, and the developer don't have to care about these things. And still the old applications are still running, but will use the new infrastructure as well. So you will have other benefits, like you can open your devices multiple times. So great thing to have, and we are waiting for that. And he told us now there will be some delays in that. What is here to say? Launch date, they will be rolled out through insider build over the next month. So insider builds is a little bit more than developer builds, so I think everybody can sign up for insider builds, so you can get this version already. But I guess it will be really in a final official public Windows version. This might take some more months, so maybe early or mid 2025 next year. So we still need more patience till this will finally show up. But nevertheless, I think an insider build is something you can put maybe on a test machine and already check that out, how this will work. So still we need to wait a bit. And if you're a developer, there is also soon the .NET Conf talk for C# developers, and there will also be a talk from Pete how you can develop with this new C# framework. If you are curious, check that out. I will also put all the links to these two blog articles into the description of the video, so it's a very, very good read as well. Second thing, what about ARM? So if you are sleeping under a rock in the last time, so Windows has now some laptops out which are finally on par speed-wise with the Apple CPU, so their M chips, and this is due to the fact that they can now support the Snapdragon X processor, which is ARM-based as well. And same as in Apple, they have translation layer in there, so you can also run your old Intel version on there. But what is not translatable is the driver level. So you still need specific drivers for your ARM devices. And I checked, and so far, no audio company promised drivers for that. So these devices, so these ARM devices, are currently totally unusable if you are a musician. But there is hope and there is rescue. So let's check that out. What Pete is saying here. So what announced this week? So Steinberg, Cubase, and Nuendo will already show a preview of their software this week, which will run then natively even on Windows ARM. But they also announced that they will create a USB audio ASIO driver, which will run on ARM. And also Focusrite announced that also early 2025. So we still also need patience for that. But at least there is hope now and there is something happening. But the much more interesting news is that line here. So Microsoft themselves are working on a driver which will be a class compliant USB driver. So if any device with USB 2 or 3 which is class compliant, this will work on an ARM laptop and it will provide an ASIO driver out of the box. I'm not sure if this is a very good news because we're still stuck with good old ASIO. I somehow hope that finally Microsoft would re-innovate their stack as well, like they did now with MIDI 2.0, but we are still here stuck with ASIO. But nevertheless, it did the job in the last years, and so this is at least a good start. But Pete also writes that's not the end of the road. They will look into creating something improved over ASIO when this is out of the door and we got something workable. But there is more news in there. I already said Steinberg is coming up with native ARM versions, but also Reaper announced a preview for ARM as well as recent studios. And reading about Reaper, I directly jumped over to the Reaper downloads, and yes, it's already here. So you can already download now a first beta version of ARM support for Windows 11 on these cool new ARM laptops. You still cannot use that because you're missing the driver, but nevertheless, you can already check out a native Reaper version on these devices. To sum up, we still need some patience till early or mid 2025, but nevertheless, at least we know now what is happening. So stay tuned for all these announcements happening this week, and there will also be a talk of Pete on Thursday, I think. So check that out as well. And yeah, until next time, make some funky music.
Oh, make some funky music.
Good plan.
See, I'm in agreement with him on Microsoft's. It's good to see that they're improving and fixing the ASO side of things, and that has been the driver standard for low latency music equipment for decades now. But I would like to see them fix the whole WDM system and the direct sound that we've seen from Windows for the last 3-4 versions. They're about to change things at the bottom level here, and this is the time where it would be good for them to actually catch up with the audio architecture that they use, and this would be the time for them to come up with the next generation of audio subsystem and get away from WDM and direct sound, which comes with a ton of latency. That's why I don't use those except when I have to share. We switch to those driver modes when we need like a shared audio device with Zoom and things like that. But I would never record in anything other than ASO because it's the only driver that actually gives you direct to the hardware connection.
Right. And also why it locks the device.
Yeah. And there's no reason why they can't do that now. Windows 12 is ready to be coming out. Windows 11 has been a bad science experiment. This is where they should be smoothing out that lower level. Apple went through the same thing earlier this year where they had to make big decisions about their audio subsystem, and they actually had to remove the FireWire core. We saw a video of that earlier this year where anybody with those old FireWire audio devices, if you're on the Apple side, you don't want to upgrade to the latest operating system over there because your FireWire device will no longer work.
Mm-hmm.
Without a hack, you have to actually put the FireWire core back into the operating system. But if you do, you tread on you are in charge of your support there because they won't support it anymore. They made that decision. It was a hard one, but it was necessary in order to completely rewrite the audio stack and get ready for Lightning port and USB-C.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Trying to go future.
Yeah, and Microsoft has always been lacking on the audio side of things. You get great video support on Windows, but when it comes to the audio layer of the operating system, not much has changed in the last 24 years.
Yeah. I mean, there's not a lot of, they're taking the 1/8-inch out ports off of phones already. So it's like,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm still used to that as, my audio out from, my machines all the time, over the years, and taking that port away is like, come on.
Well, if it wasn't for the USB-C Lightning port solution nowadays with the phones, I would have been pissed off at losing my audio jack as well on the phones. But given how it's evolved and now you can plug audio devices into the Lightning port, I get why they had to do it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. But at the same time, you got to make sure that they're planning for the next thing. Like, I mean, everyone's saying, "Oh, everything should be wireless," and it's like, well, yes, but no. I mean, there's yes, there's no.
Well, yes, the wireless. What for musicians on the mobile devices, wireless is not for me. Would never be like my main go-to. It's nice that you can plug a Focusrite into a phone these days. That's for music. If you're trying to go in through Bluetooth to your phone, that's not for music. And it may never be. I mean, even with Bluetooth 6 and the specs they're talking about there, they're not improving the latency enough to make it music worthy.
Yeah.
Good for listening. Yeah, it's good for listening to the music, but it's not good for making the music.
Right. And that's why you have a hardwire studio.
Yep. Well, the times are changing.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing that never changes is the crap you have to put up with when you're in a band. And true. Steve Terraberry, he's going to give us some insights into the trials and tribulations of working in a band and making things work, the situations you deal with other members, and he's gonna make you laugh. And I know for me and you, Glenn, there's going to be a lot of these situations he talks about that are going to ring true.
I recognize at least two of the people in the band in that last thumbnail.
Yeah, I've had a couple of them in my band. Yeah, and he's at Steve Terraberry over on YouTube. And this is the kind of channel you go to not only to learn about music and get musical advice, but to laugh a little bit and lighten the seriousness of the whole music world. He is refreshing to cover these kind of musical topics in a way that you don't take yourself too serious.
It's important.
Yeah, especially if you are one of those people who are trying to put a band together, and whether it's an online band like over on BandLab or, it's people from around the block, all of this is very relevant. You will deal with this in both scenarios.
Mm-hmm. Let's see what he's got.
Look at that guy in the middle, and I had two singers look exactly like that.
Nice.
All right, Steve, let's see why being in a band sucks, and it's getting worse.
Singer, I just wanted to let you know how much I appreciate you carrying your microphone. Oh, yeah, no problem. Because, there were lots of drums to carry in and stuff, but I know how heavy that mic is. Yeah, I guess it is kind of heavy for a mic, but no, I'm good, man. I have no problems carrying it in. It's all good. You know what, bassist? I got to admit, I'm impressed you didn't bring your girlfriend for once. Oh, you gotta be twisting my naps! Oh, come on, man. She's not bothering anyone. Okay. Can we just practice our new song, please? No, that's not important right now. What we need to be doing is a TikTok. What the hell is Vine 2.0? Come on, man. TikTok is the best way to reach an audience these days. Isn't that what the music is for? Since we're a band and not a TikToker? No, just trust me, man. They'll discover us through TikTok, and then they'll check out our music.
Boots, 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 cats, boots, cats, boots, cats, boots, cats.
This song is catchy. This song is catchy. This song is catchy. Hope your cat doesn't scratch me. This song is catchy. This song is catchy.
Yes, see, this is what we gotta be doing. I would rather staple my nipples to an Albanian bobcat. Okay, I just posted on socials. What'd you say? Big things coming? Big things? We're releasing one song, more like average sized things coming. That's what she said. Big things coming. Oh, very original.
Here's Never Gonna Give You Up by Rick Astley.
Siri, stop. Sorry guys, that was my phone. Well, how about you put it away while we're at band practice? But what about my girlfriend? Girlfriends shouldn't even be at band practice. Oh yeah, I know this must be weird for you since you're not used to having a girlfriend around. Alright, can we play our new song and pretend that we're actually a band at band practice? Yeah, I'm down. Alright, hold up, I'm just gonna tune up quick. up, you're all like Neil Peart on crack! Count us in. Does someone want to tell me what the hell's going on? Oh, we actually use pre-recorded tracks now? Okay, listen, I understand pre-recorded tracks to like add to the show, but not completely replace the instruments. Dude, pre-recorded tracks sound so much better than live instruments, plus there's no mistakes. Isn't that the point of live music? The fact that it's raw and not perfect? Oh, come on, man. Motley Crue uses pre-recorded tracks live, and they're still cool. Oh, I don't know if they are. Oh, by the way, I don't like the lyrics to the new song, so I wrote new ones. Singer? Is this AI generated? No. Next time you copy and paste from ChatGPT, you might want to delete all the evidence first. Well, you guys don't include me in the songwriting process. I'm the singer. I should at least have a say in the lyrics. Yeah, well, maybe if you actually contributed to the band, like paying for things or carrying equipment after shows. Oh, well, sorry, I'm tired after a show. I'm the front man and actually have to put on a performance while you guys stand there playing your instruments like... Oh, right. Yeah. If it weren't for us, you'd have nothing to sing to. You know, why do singers always think the world revolves around them? You realize you're the most disposable member of the band? Actually, vocals are the most important part of the band. It's the part that people actually connect with. Oh, yeah, connect with this. Oh, I'm done. Oh, you know what? I'm done. And guess what? I'm taking my microphone with me. Thanks, it was a blast. Oh my god, you guys look! The singer's actually carrying equipment! Yeah. Oh, you and you. Alright, can we all agree we're better off without him anyways?
Now playing How Am I Supposed to Live Without You by Michael Bolton.
Siri, stop! Michael Bolton, bad! Oh, I almost forgot. Guess whose Spotify payment finally came in? Yeah? No way. Here's yours. Yeah. There's yours. Oh, we're rolling in the dough now, babes. Here you go. There's yours. Yeah. This is 10 cents. Oh, crap. My bad, dude. Here, give that back. Sorry. Sorry about that. This is 5 cents. Yeah, my math is a little off. No, we have 1 million streams on Spotify and we made 5 cents each? That's like 0.0000000000001 cents a stream. You see, this is why artists don't make money anymore, because these freaking greedy streaming services take everything we make, sucking us dry, and then they leave nothing for the actual artist. You know what? This is why we have to start selling physical merch, so that maybe we can actually get enough money to afford a cup of coffee. Oh, speaking of physical media, I made an album cover for our next album. Check it. Guitarist. What? Did AI make this? No. Why would you think that? Well, for starters, the guy has like 8 fingers on each hand. And look at the guy's face. He looks like our drummer. What did you tell the AI program to do? Make the crappiest album cover ever? Well, this is why we actually have to start hiring graphic designers. Oh, yeah, maybe if we get 100 million streams, we can afford one band photograph?
Here's Photograph by Nickelback.
No, Nickelback bad. You know, I think it's time you guys accept that Nickelback is actually a great band. And how can you make fun of Nickelback when a band like Imagine Dragons actually exists?
Now playing Believer by Imagine Dragons.
Stop, Siri, stop. Thank you. Dude, what the hell are you doing? Dude, you want to maybe not destroy my phone? What would you look at that? We've been at band practice for an hour now and we've achieved absolutely nothing. You shouldn't swear. That goes against community guidelines, right? What are you talking about? We're live streaming the band practice. You've got to be shitting me! You really want an audience seeing everything that transpired today? Is this what you guys wanted? Is this the content you guys wanted? Our band is falling apart. Everything is AI generated now. Our drummer looks like he's AI generated. We don't even play our songs live anymore because the computer does it for us. We can't even be in a band anymore without also being a TikToker. Do you think this is what I wanted? To be the next TikTok star? We don't even play our instruments anymore because we're too busy talking about social media. Our guitarist is our producer. We can't even afford to do a full album, but why would we anyways? Because no one's gonna listen to it. We're just releasing one song at a time and calling it Big Things Coming. And for what? Just to gain another follower that isn't gonna listen to our music anyways? When did listeners become followers? Where's the desire and love for genuine music anymore? The passion, the soul, the dignity, just gone. All that's left is snippets of forgettable music for influencers to dance to, only to be pushed out of the social media feed by the next day and be completely forgotten about. With every post, slowly losing your dignity, falling victim to the machine, your dreams slowly fading like a candle in the breeze. I had no idea you felt that way. Did you just come up with that? ChatGPT wrote that. Oh my God! I'm done. Bye, everyone. Oh, don't forget to subscribe. Oh, and don't forget to leave a like and hit that comment button. It's hit like, leave a comment, you Weezer-looking dude trying to play metal. Oh, you are gonna feel this? Dude, my girlfriend! Yeah, well, your girlfriend has been stalking me for 8 years. So, bye, everyone. Yeah, it's been a blast. It's been an absolute ride! Dude, I told you live streaming this would be a dumb idea. Oh, coming from the guy who thought AI would make a good album cover? You know, I don't know what's more embarrassing, the fact you used AI or the fact that you tried to pass it off as original artwork. Yeah? Well, you want to know something? You're a bassist. Okay, that was uncalled for. I'm out. I gotta go to work. Average size things coming.
I'm not a bassist. You're a bassist.
You're a bassist, man.
He went there.
That is uncalled for.
Oh, that's a punch in the balls.
Now, was that even the drummer's house, or did he just like forget to leave?
I think he forgot to leave.
It happens.
But tell me that moment where he was trying to tune and the drummer starts going.
I've seen that guy at least 3 times.
That has been the story of my jam life.
Yeah, I mean, it's important to get tuned up for sure. And some people, they can tune real quick and they're done. And again, tuning it is important to be able to hear sometimes. Like if you're tuning, to a tuner, it's not as important because the tuner has to be able to hear. But then the drums do kind of interfere with that. Like, it's like, yeah, let's.
Well, he brought up a lot of modern band challenges. The like, we need to be on TikTok and. Did you write that with AI? Like, that's today's bands are definitely going to be having these arguments.
For sure. All the time.
And the girlfriend, I mean, that is like a timeless argument with
The
fans.
little phone up on the ledge. Like, what?
Yeah, she took a beating.
Oh, yeah. But she was not injured in the making of this video.
And no phones were broken.
That's right. Several drumsticks were used as weapons, though. I must put that disclaimer out there, because drumsticks make a good weapon.
Oh, they can.
Get someone's attention across the stage, and he's like, "I got a whole bag right here."
and them secretly streaming it. That's another one that, like, I could see, at live band practices, that kind of scenario where, like, some of the band members are not aware that they're live.
For sure. And when they realized, where is it?
Well, Steve, you get me. You really get me. At Steve Terberry, and he is a jet master. You saw that little sign?
Yeah.
The man can shred.
Even saw a couple little sweep arpeggios there, just as a little appetizer. Very
cool. It's good that he managed to get some music into there.
Definitely.
But that's the lighter side of the situation. A good way of, like, finding some humor in some real challenges, because everything he addressed there, those are real challenges. I would be like him when it comes to, like, what are we going to do here and how are we going to do it? I'd have the same attitude.
Sure. And the whole the singer carrying the microphone, like that whole exchange was quite good. We do see a lot of that.
And as a bassist,
and as a roadie, as a guy who, like, brings in the equipment all the time. Like, I'm bringing in the subwoofers and the mains, so like, we bring in, like, all that stuff. And when the band leaves, a lot of times they're like, "Can we help you carry anything?" And a lot of times, like, we don't want any help when it comes to that. It's like, we've done this so many times. We have such a system built up that if somebody helps, it literally messes up the system. It's like things don't get what they need to, and it's like, what happened? It's like, oh, we had help. So it's like, at this point we just don't accept help. It's just like, no, man, we got it, we're good, thanks. But we're also there for an extra hour past when the band leaves a lot of times. So it's us getting all our cables wrapped up, getting everything back the way it should be, back into the Jeep, so that he can get it all back to so that it's all ready to go the next time. Otherwise, it's a mess, and that's no good.
Well, it's like playing Tetris, and if they don't know the game, you don't want them shoving anything in.
Exactly. It's like, oh, I saw a spot in the middle, so I put the mic stand right in the middle. It's like, okay, that's not where that goes, so we'll move this over here and then do it again. So it's like, we have to undo things and redo things. So it does, as much as we appreciate the offers of help, it's for us, it actually makes more sense for us to just do it all ourselves because it's faster.
Yeah. I think the funniest moment actually was the debate of the importance of the singer and whether it's the singer that everybody's coming for or the music that the singer gets to sing to. And I've had that debate in bands.
But that's the thing, is it really should be everybody having fun on stage together would be ideal. I mean, that's kind of the way I look at it with bands. So for me, it was always, I never looked at it as, we're not trying to make it big or whatever. We're getting together and we're playing music. So we're just having fun, So for us, it's like we didn't lose the connection to the fun of music. And there are times where we will just get together and just noodle for an hour or whatever, just because. Or there's times we'll get together and work on specific songs and all that. So there are different objectives to the practices, but it's fun when we're able to all just get in there and just, fall into a groove and go. It's fun.
Yeah. And it's not uncommon that you might have one member in that band who's like the one who's like, we're doing this to get big, we're doing this to get signed. And you have a band who's like, well, I thought I was doing it to, like, have fun every Thursday night. And and it's kind of important to distinguish the differences there.
Oh, yeah. And when it comes to playing in front of people, like, I try to play out as much as I can. So we play usually like every week, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, out at, a couple of open jams, but we don't really do any gigs, or we haven't had many gigs, when it comes to over the years. We do a handful here and there. But for the most part, we've been doing mostly just the open jams, because it's good to just continue getting out and playing in front of people.
Well, the open jams is a way of actually solving two problems. You get band practice, plus you get to actually practice with an audience, which is part of band practice.
Yeah. And I always look at it as also playing with other people. Like this last one, there weren't a lot of people there, so I ended up, instead of just playing the 15 minutes that we would get for our band, I got there before our band did, and I think I ended up playing for like an hour and a half, like all, throughout the night. So it was just, I was just playing bass all night. So it was, and I got to switch to guitar at one point and, switch back. So it's a lot of fun to be able to just, and one guy was like, hey, you want to just play some blues? And it's like, sure. So we just jump up and we just jump into something, in D flat or whatever, you just pick a key and go. And that kind of thing is fun to help keep you on your toes. And it's something that, the more I do it, the more fun I have doing it, because it's also, I just try to play something a little different each time, like going through something that's a basic progression. I try to play something that's basic, but slight changes that make it a little more interesting,
Well, the people you're playing with will give you slight changes. Like each person gives me a different mood when I'm playing with them.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why the guy, somebody jumped up and played guitar with us there, and then, somebody else jumped in on drums later, and, we end up playing with a bunch of different people this way, and it ends up usually being me, my guitar player, and singer, Joey and Cheryl. The three of us are, when we're playing together there, and then we have other people jump in. Like sometimes we have one of our other drummers with us, sometimes we have a different drummer with us, sometimes we don't have a drummer at all, and we just, grab somebody who's at the jam. So it all depends.
Yeah, working with the different drummers, that is a challenge.
Definitely.
Steve's lucky. The drummer was the last one standing.
Yep, that would have been Joe or Glenn hanging out.
That was a nice, refreshing laugh at like the challenge of jamming with a bunch of crazy guys.
With many common band melodies.
Yeah. Now, to finish things off with a little bit of hardware review, and for you, like monitoring, the challenge of stage monitoring. You're lucky. You guys have good gear and experience at like getting all the performers the sound they need in order to perform. Your monitoring equipment, all analog, correct?
We use all the, if people bring their ears, we give them in-ears, we'll give them a feed, bring them an XLR. If we just on a default setup, we'll usually have 3 or 4 monitors set up across the front, 12-inch monitors, and then we would go with 3 of them there and 1 for, bass over there, 1 for the drummer back there. Usually we set up as if it's going to be like a 4 or 5 piece, but we do work with some 8-piece bands where we have to, add a lot more stuff going on. I have 2 of the bigger monitors in my trunk. So I have the 2 15-inch mains, basically, or old mains, that we would use as monitors for drums or for keys or for our bass player. If we need something that has a lot more low end, we'll use one of those. For the most part, we use the other ones though. And again, it's mostly if people want in-ears, we'll give them ears. We'll have a monitor down anyway as a backup.
Well, and as far as the ones who need the in-ears, certain types of, like drummers, I would think in-ears would help in their situation. But if they do have like a nice monitor in front of them, that's just as good.
Yeah, and it kind of depends also. A lot of times it's the vocalists. It depends kind of if the drummer's going to be singing and trying to harmonize. That would be one thing.
Well, if there's a lot of mics around the drummer, then you don't necessarily want a monitor going into those mics.
Right, and that's the thing is with the drums, a lot of times all he's sending them in the monitor is just the kick. Like we usually ask people what they want in the monitors, and for a lot of the drummers, it's just like, just the kick. All they want is reinforcement on the kick, so that's getting nice and solid for them, and they can really hear it and feel it. In the
and that's their metronome.
Exactly.
That is how they keep time.
But you might get him also saying, I need to hear the guitar player from the other side. So, because that's the rhythm guitar player, let's say, and he's on the side that he's not hearing it as well because it's behind his, his ride, whatever. There could be a situation where he needs more of this because he can't hear it or wants to hear more of the bass so that they can lock in better, but everybody would have their own choices, and that's the thing, is the way Mike sets it up. He usually has he can have his a lot of outs. He could send 10 outs if he wanted to, but we end up with 5 at least. The 4 main mixes I was saying, those 4 main monitor mixes, and then a 5th one for the drummer in the back. And then if anybody has in ears, we can go beyond that and continue to give more mixes.
Yeah, it's nice that Mike has that flexibility in those options.
Yeah, exactly. But it'd be interesting to see the how these work for this.
This comes from a monitoring master. Just his videos on monitoring alone are worth the price of admission. He covers that field tremendously. But great hardware reviewer, engineer, understands the working musician, like he says in the title there. He's covering the kind of stage information that you want to know more about. We first came across his channel. He was covering a new wireless monitoring system where it actually had a microphone and could pick up the ambient noise as well as the monitoring, which was a game changer in itself. A big complaint on stage a lot of times when it comes to the monitoring is that they don't hear anything. They don't hear the musician next to them trying to tell them something. And those monitors were definitely interesting to learn about. What he's going to be talking about here, and that's at Scott Ull Music over on YouTube. Professional music and nerdy gear guy. You don't look like a nerd. You look too cool to be calling yourself a nerd.
Nice.
But he's going to be covering the new SHURE Axient digital personal monitor system. And SHURE, their reputation on the mic side, I'm very familiar with them. On the monitoring side, this is a little new for me.
Sure. Now, one solution that we had tried for what you were saying a minute ago with bands not being able to hear on stage is we had just taken another microphone and just had it kind of off the stage to hear the crowd kind of and just hear the stage noise. And he was able to pipe that in for one of the guys who had the in-ears, and he said that helped him a lot, because then instead of just sounding like he's in his own little bubble of ears, he was able to then hear the crowd coming in from just a microphone that was just off to the side.
Could actually feed off of the crowd's energy, which is something that is important.
Yeah. Exactly. And it was just, feed it in a little bit. You don't want it to go, you don't want that feeding back.
You
do some other problems or anything. But in this case, it was just what we needed. And it was something that hadn't really come up in most of the other gigs. Most of the times it doesn't come up. But I think it's also because his ears, he probably has them more closed in, or he feels more closed in by his ears, and he has them cranked louder so that, he's hearing more of what he wants to hear in the ears. He gets very dialed in with his mix for that. But he would love to have the extra room sound. So we added that in for him.
Yeah, and that's the key, is to be able to dial it in. You got to be able to go. If you're cranked all the way up and there's no more headroom, then you need it to be louder. You can't. So it's good to find that sweet spot.
Sure.
All right, let's see what SHURE's got out there from the ultimate monitoring source.
Axient digital wireless in-ear monitor system. I was actually very fortunate. I got to see this at AES 2024 in New York earlier this month, and it definitely blew my mind. It's pretty crazy what this can do. It's definitely a game changer in the in-ear monitor world. So in this video, I'm going to go over some of the features that it has, and specifically, I'm very excited about this because I've been wanting companies to go more digital with their wireless in-ear monitors for a long time. There is a ton of misunderstanding of what digital wireless means versus analog wireless. I think part of the misunderstanding is that people assume analog means like vintage and digital sounds fake. So they're making the comparison of amp modelers versus tube amps or MP3s versus vinyl, Wireless is a completely different thing, and I made a whole dedicated video on the topic so you can understand why digital wireless actually is much better and gives a much more natural sound than analog wireless. There's a ton of different digital microphone systems out there. The SLXD, the ULXD, QLXD, Axient Digital, those are all digital wireless systems. And now they're starting to dive into the world of digital in-ear monitor systems. So even if this isn't something that you plan to get or something like that, it's still pretty interesting to see the advancements in wireless in-ear monitor systems, the advancements in wireless, and what professional high-end touring acts are using for their in-ear monitor system. Also, just FYI, last week I was super sick, so if my voice sounds a little bit weird, that's why. Don't forget to subscribe if you're not already subscribed. It definitely helps out the channel. So as far as the transmitters, the ones that will live in the rack, it's available in a dual or a quad version. Both of those will only take up 1 U of rack space. With the quad system, that's 4 wireless stereo in-ear monitor systems in 1 U of rack space. The antennas are already combined on that. That's either 4 wireless stereo or 8 mono wireless transmitters, all in 1 U of rack space. And with the dual one, you can get 2 stereo or 4 mono in-ear monitor systems. And what's really cool about this is it's already combining 4 stereo or 8 mono in-ear monitor systems, which means that you don't have to get an extra antenna combiner, and all of this is just in 1 U of rack space. Of course, if you need more in-ear monitors than that, you'll have to get a combiner, but I'll go over some of the combiner options later. But the antennas already combined in this system avoids having to deal with antenna farms, which is really, really cool. The receivers have 2 antennas for true digital diversity. With 2 antennas and true diversity, it basically just means if one antenna loses the signal, the other one is there to help prevent dropouts and have more reliability with your wireless. Also has a really cool option where you can have a threaded connection. So if your in-ear monitor cable has a threaded connection, you can actually screw that in so you don't have to worry about your in-ears getting unplugged accidentally. It says it has improved stereo separation, and I got to listen to these things at AES, and they sound just absolutely crystal clear. I'd be curious how much the stereo separation is improved, but man, these things sound absolutely crystal clear, and that's part of the beauty of digital wireless, is that digital wireless is able to get the full frequency spectrum of 20 hertz up to 20 kilohertz, whereas analog wireless actually is smaller. Again, watch my video to find out why digital gives you a much more natural tone. And you can really hear that with this system. It sounded so good. It spans a full 184 megahertz of tuning bandwidth. So basically you don't have to worry about the different bands based on the different regions that you're in. If you don't know what wireless bands are, I do have a video going over that in detail if you'd like to find out more info about that. It's going to be almost impossible to not find a clear signal with this system. It's also very spectrally efficient. You can fit 16 channels within a 6 megahertz bandwidth. That's really cool. So you basically have this massive amount of range to find a clear channel, and you can fit a ton of them in a very small space. It also comes with encryption. It of course has the analog outputs depending if you get the quad or the dual, but it also has AES. It also has Dante. It also has a second port for redundant Dante. One of the really cool things is that this product will work with the SHURE Axient Digital Spectrum Manager as well as the Show Link. I go over this in my Axient Digital video that I did, but the Spectrum Manager basically is always just scanning, looking for clear signals, and what happens is if a channel gets interference, and you have the Spectrum Manager and the Show Link, the Spectrum Manager is going to send a new clear channel to the system, to the wireless, and the Show Link is going to send that new clear channel to the musician on the stage. Then you don't have to go scan and resync and all that stuff. It just happens almost instantly, and you're on a brand new clean channel, and you don't have to worry, and you can continue on with the show. You're not going to find anything more reliable than that. Truly, truly incredible. That works with the Axient Digital for like the wireless mics and the body packs, and now it's going to work with the wireless in-ear monitor systems. So the only downside of digital wireless is that digital wireless always is going to have some sort of latency, and this one comes in at less than 2.9 milliseconds of latency, and less than 2.9 milliseconds of latency is not able to be heard by the human ear. Something else very cool that it has analog mode. You can use it with the PSM 1000 receivers, the body pack receivers. That's really cool because if you already have a PSM 1000 system, you can gradually start switching over to the Axient Digital PSM. I thought that was a pretty cool idea. There is frequency diversity on this. With frequency diversity, the body packs will work on 2 completely different frequencies. So if one of them drops out, the other one is there to keep the audio going, and you basically lose no signal. There is also going to be an option for a 2-way passive combiner if you do want to combine 2 of these together, because you can passively combine 2 sets. Now you have 8 stereo wireless in-ear monitor systems or 16 mono channels, all running off of a single antenna. Pretty crazy stuff. Of course, if you do need to use more, they will have the active antenna combiner as well. But that's really cool. Again, the antenna combining on this, that it's already combined the antenna for 4 of them, and you can passively combine to a total of 8 of them. Really crazy, really efficient, and not taking up a bunch of rack space. So there are 2 other modes with this that I'm trying to wrap my head around myself. I'm going to post links down below so that I make sure that you guys can find out more details about this. The first one is about WMAS mode, but it stands for Wireless Multi-Channel Audio Systems. So this graph is the best way that has been explained to me. So instead of having, 4 narrow wireless transmitters and receivers on different channels, that's how wireless has normally worked. But with this WMAS mode, you can transmit like 4 wireless on one fundamental frequency. This just changes like everything that I think about wireless, because wireless has always been one frequency, one transmitter and receiver. That's the way that it works. The fact that now there's 4 in just like a slightly wider, I'm trying to understand it myself. If I do understand this, I'll do a more in-depth video on this. I was sick all last week. I have so much brain fog right now. I definitely can't process that right now. Once I do more research on the topic, I'll do a detailed video on it later. There's also another mode called spatial diversity, and this is also interesting. So I believe it has a way that it reads like 2 different antennas or something like that. I believe this is for like if you're playing at like a stadium or something like that, so you can have your in-ear monitors work backstage as well as on the stage, which can be useful for like people who need to communicate in like a dressing room and then out on the front of the stage. Pretty cool. It seems similar to how quadversity mode works. Again, both of these topics, I'm not pretending I'm an expert on. I'm still trying to understand it myself, and we'll post more resources down below. So it's looking like it will release sometime in January of 2025. I hope they have it at NAMM 2025 this year. I am going to be going to NAMM 2025 this year, so don't forget to subscribe so you can see my video on NAMM 2025 when that video comes out. I'm really excited for this. I've been waiting for companies, especially Shure, to start doing digital wireless in-ear monitor systems. It's been a long time coming. I'm excited for this. And like I said, it's such a new product. It just came out today, at least on the day that I'm posting this video. As more details come out, more videos and stuff like that, I'll leave more links down below and keep updating the description. So if you're watching this sometime in the future, I'm going to keep updating the description as new things come out about this product. And also, if I do any more videos about this or products related to this, I'll be sure to link them down below. I'll try to leave them as a pinned comment as well. If you guys enjoyed this video, do me a favor and hit the thumbs up button. It truly does help out the channel. And also let me know in the comments if you enjoy this type of content instead. This is my first time doing kind of more of a news, like, hey, here's a new product that was just announced type of video. Let me know if you guys like more videos like that. Leave a comment down below and let me know. Until then, be sure to check out my video on the Axient digital wireless system. So this is the wireless mics and the wireless body packs. A lot of detail, a lot of stuff that this thing can do. Check out my video on that. And also, if you haven't seen my video on analog versus digital wireless, be sure to check out my video on that so you can see why digital is so superior. You can check out both of those videos by clicking the links on your screen now. Thank you guys again for watching. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram at ScottYoleMusic. Feels good to be just doing something again instead of laying in bed, which I did basically all last week. Thank you guys again for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. If you have any other cool gear you want me to check out, leave a comment down below. Thank you guys again for watching, and I'll see you next time.
Oh, and that analog versus digital wireless video is awesome. Everybody who's interested in this technology should check that out.
Yeah, that's definitely one I got to check out for sure. Good stuff.
And that is some fresh news on this technology. I think the toughest thing is to have to wait to 2025 to really see it in action.
Yeah, for sure. And like he was saying, they're getting blown away by, seeing the way wireless working with 4 things sandwiched together in that one frequency. I think that has to do with just being more precise about the frequencies now, where they can, reliably get separation between 4 things that are close together, so they can just, bundle them and put them right there instead of having to spread them out across a spectrum, where you can end up
and without the potential bleed through that you might have gotten in the old days.
Exactly. That's awesome.
Can you imagine 2 of those 8 channels paired together? The example he showed there, 16 mono channels.
Yeah, it's almost too much. I mean, yeah, when we have, even 8 stereo channels, we have, some of the biggest bands we work with are 8, 10, 11 piece bands, And it's like, even with an 11-piece band, sometimes people are sharing monitors. Like the horn section might only have, 2 monitors for 3 people, rather than everybody having in ears. Like it's just all going right to there. And we have, a different mix on each one. So like, the person on this side is getting more of the other side. So they're able to blend, themselves as a group. But then, everybody else has their own, single monitor mix that they're all going down with. But, 16 mono mixes, we'd be sending them, everyone's getting their own mix in their ears, as well as, as an instrument, or as well as a monitor on the stage. So that's a lot of mixes to have to now wrangle, that you have to now, deal with all those mixes in, if something starts feeding back, which mix do you have to go check for which mic? That's the other question.
Yeah, the flexibility you would have there, though, true, it does make for a more complex monitor mix, but the whole reason why you would consolidate in those cases, because you only have so many channels, not having to is a nice option to have.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, absolutely. And I can see, in a huge stadium environment, absolutely needing that. Even like he was saying, for backstage, just even for all the stagehands, to get everybody on the same, pack, so that everybody can talk to everybody. I could definitely see needing, that many sends. But
yeah, well, that's what
it's smaller for that.
That's what I was thinking, is like, this would be a big stage scenario with a big band. I mean, that's where like 2 of those together would cover that like massive scenario.
Sure, like an orchestra, yeah.
But 1 is actually ideal for like your club, the smaller stage scenario. 1 would make me happy.
Getting all that into one rack, one rack unit, that's awesome.
Yeah, well, SHURE knows how to build things, and they build them tough. They build them to last, and this just complements their ability to make great mics. This is great technology for them to complement that.
Indeed.
Yeah,
awesome.
Great
to pick out more from the channel.
Yeah, well, and he's checking out like the big audio expos, so. I like that he's doing this kind of like news approach now. If he's lucky enough to get to go see him at these expos like this, he's my go-to guy. I wish I could go.
Yeah, I mean, I'm so close to New York City. I'm surprised I didn't go. Next time.
Yeah, that's at Scott Yule Music over on YouTube. Great review there.
Indeed. Love it.
Well, I think we covered a lot of our additional, not necessarily questions, but definitely things that come up as topics of discussion for us.
Indeed. It's important to go through the list. We'll appreciate everybody's feedback on that. People letting us know what they want to hear about, whether it's different types of gear they want to see us, review, or whether it's different, information they want, different types of musical knowledge that we go through. We curate a lot of different channels, so we end up with a lot of different sources. So it all comes down to what seems to be, the newest thing that we wanted to go over now, or the thing that's most asked about. And that's where we were covering the questions.
Yeah, like Uni said, we search so you don't have to.
Yeah, but we do.
But if you do want us to search for something, let us know.
Exactly. We'd be happy to. We'll catch you
now
guys again.
Next week, we'll be probably putting on some costumes. It's going to be Halloween, so you can expect a whole bunch of surprises.
That sounds good. Might have to turn the lights orange in here. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. Ange has been picking her pumpkin filters. So you'll match.
Perfect. And we will catch everybody else next week on Talkin Shhh I.T. What's going on tomorrow, though?
Tomorrow we got an interview with Arva.
Nice.
And some poetry.
Very cool. So
open minds, open mic.
Open minds, open mic. Join us tomorrow. Join us next week. Bring a costume.
And we'll be there.
That's right. Thanks, everybody.
Night.
Workstations and music tools. We explore theory, gear in 82. How to arrange, compose, and the art of arranging. Taking a look at AI and how the times have changed. On a PC or a Mac, and even with a mobile device. advice. We'll be talking about it all every Thursday night, from software to plugins and synths that entice. Dive deep into tech and let creativity take flight. Talkin' IT. We're talking IT. Come and join in and have some fun. It's highly educational with a lot to learn. From bedroom producers to seasoned pros, we're breaking it down so knowledge grows. Whether you're a DJ or a beat making wizard, we got the tips and tricks to make your sound sizzle. Mixing and mastering, that's our jam. With the tutorials and tips on how much rap. Get the best quality from your setup and gear. Tune in every week and lend us your ear. We're talking IT. Come and join in and have some fun. It's highly educational with a lot to learn.